What's up everyone, this is MindBlank, welcome back to my channel and the Baronkase Liquid, a $130 hybrid micro ATX case that does something that we haven't seen before. Obviously here Deepcool and their gaming brand Gamerstorm are taking advantage of the fact that they also manufacture cooling solutions and have come up with this rather unique case. I am of course referring to the integrated AIO that comes with this chassis, a 120mm Captain RGB that is strapped in and ready to cool your CPUs. But what's interesting about this is that instead of just slapping on any old thing, they've opted for the RGB variant, included an RGB RF 120mm fan, and even modded a cooling circuit on this to include a mini reservoir/flow meter. We'll be talking about this in a moment, but let's take a closer look at the chassis itself. I've kept mentioning on this channel that I think Deepcool is one of the few brands which is on point with their quality and performance to price ratio. Whenever I use something made by them, I feel like I'm getting my money's worth, and the Baronkase is certainly 100% no exception. This is a really sturdy looking and feeling chassis. We've got thick metal including the front panel, which feels more like armor. It single-handedly accounts for a fairly big chunk of the case's weight, and maybe I'm old-fashioned here, but whenever I look at a case, I need to see how sturdy it feels. Usually these are components that take a lot of willing or unwilling abuse during their lifespan, and that's why I always prefer something sturdy. Also, Deepcool got it right on the design congruity of this case, and I'm talking about the recurring triangle design present here, on the buttons, on the front panel cutouts, on the back cutouts, and even on the top of the case. And this is really refreshing to see a design flow that isn't broken by some oddly placed element. I don't know how to exactly word it here, but it emits a very angular, geometrically inclined and brute, coarse sort of way design, but in a good way, don't get me wrong, kinda like a small exoskeleton. This is the vibe I'm getting here. This is a hybrid-ish micro ATX case, since it's a little bigger than the other options on the market, but will allow mounting of regular ATX motherboards too. In order to do this, you'll have to reposition the PSU to the top front portion of the case, and it does have a pre-mounted mains extension that you'll plug into your PSU, leave the power button to the on position, and then fix this flange to it. Afterwards, it simply slides into the front section and is secured in place by 4 screws to the top of the case. Naturally, this comes at a cost, and that cost is the front top 120mm fan slot, which becomes unusable, but the whole thing is ingenious and works quite well with the PSU taking cold air from the front and exhausting at the top. As you'd expect, the insides are a little cramped, but this is a small case, let's not forget. There's liberal use of thumb screws to keep things in place, and the front section is kinda closed off, reason being that you have the PSU area here with cables plus the tubing for the AIO and reservoir, so not a lot of nice things to actually show off in a build. You get a top magnetic filter, I love these things by the way, a bottom magnetic filter and a regular one for the front of the case. And another thing that I liked is the fact that all the screws and bits come separately packed and labeled. I don't think I've seen this in many cases, if any at all. And take a look at how the pump and water block are secured for shipping. I mean, Deepcool could have opted to have this secured by some cheap cardboard or any other way, but look at this plastic plate and its design. This actually looks like something you make sure is designed to look good since it'll stay forever on the case, but in reality this is something that you can actually throw away, so really impressed by this, honestly, presentation is top notch. Moving on, I want to talk about the AIO part of this case, and you get all the bits and pieces in a separate box. At its base, it's a regular 120mm Captain, RGB Captain, so expect good cooling and great looks. I've reviewed the 240mm variant of it on this channel, so make sure to check the video out if you want to find out more details on performance. One neat thing is that the usual remote you get with the Captain series is actually integrated at the top of the case, so the 3 buttons named M, S and P which control mode, speed and power on or off. I am going to be building in this case shortly and will be mentioning the experience itself, but I'd like to discuss this top handle and its 4 screws, which are a pain to screw back in since the actual holes on the handles are smaller than the thread diameter, and so the screw will actually screw in first through this handle before securing to the case. And yes, this means I stripped these and they still didn't go all the way in. So I built a RYZEN 2400G powered system in this case, and before you jump up and point out the obvious discrepancy between a $130 case and $170 APU, accounting for probably the bulk of the system cost, I'm not condoning such builds unless the user expressly wants it, of course. After all, considering the price tag and the included AIO, it is clear that the case is meant for more higher end builds. I kept the Baronkase for the 2400G build specifically, so I also threw in a Deepcool 500W PSU, 16GB of 3200MHz CL16 RGB RAM from Gale, and 2 120GB SSDs. And the system will stick around in its current shape for a while, providing casual gaming on the big screen in the living room, and will spend the rest of its time by putting the 8 available threads to use on encoding 4K to 1080p archive footage for the channel. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention about the front SSD mount, the one just above the flow meter, is that it's actually really awesome how the plastic cover on this reservoir covers the connections of the SSD, so it gives you a clean look without intentional effort. So anyway, building was pretty uneventful in a positive sort of way. Cable management is a little more challenging with all the leads from the PSU just practically falling down the front section of the case, but this is an entry-level type power supply I'm using here, so one with flat and modular cables will fare a bit better. If you're wondering how good the Captain is with a 120mm radiator attached to it, well, it's pretty damn impressive, although an overclocked RYZEN 2400G is not exactly putting out tons of heat. But clocked to 3.9 GHz and 1600 MHz GPU with 1.2 volts SoC voltage, I was seeing around mid-40s during gaming, so that's damn respectable. In the end, there's just a couple of things that I didn't like about this case. One is the issue with the screws and the handle, and the other is regarding the glass side panel the case comes with. And this is more of a general thing. It's great looking, tinted, don't get me wrong, but it's really about time that some sort of catching mechanism is implemented on kinda all higher end cases out there. It is getting fairly annoying taking these things off and hoping it doesn't slip and hit the table or worse. Let me know your thoughts on this case in the comments below. Maybe you even already own one, and in which case let me know what you're cooling with the Captain AIO integrated here. Don't forget to check out my Twitter, Instagram and Patreon pages if you want to become a MindBlank Tech backer, and thank you for supporting this channel by subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one everybody, bye bye.